allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Borowski.
Here.
Kalidas.
Here.
Montgomery. Vogel.
Here.
McLeod.
Here.
Ruddick.
Here.
Stokes.
Here.
All right.
Has anyone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Yep.
Anybody like to make a motion to approve, or are there any changes needed?
I did not find any changes needed. I make a motion to approve.
Support.
Are you good with that?
All those in
He's not looking at me. Oh,
please do all those in favor.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any public comment unrelated to items on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we will move on to the public hearing, which is in reference to a surplus consideration of 218 Winter Avenue.
So the property at 218 Winter Avenue is zoned R1, which is a single-family residential district, and is currently used as a museum and a single-family rental, which is upstairs. There's a 2-bedroom apartment. The property is surrounded by residential uses. The city currently owns the property and is looking to sell the lot to be returned to a single-family residential structure. The property was given to the city in 2016 by the Berglund family. Prior to that, the property was owned by descendants of the Berglund, family, and used as a rental as well as the museum since 1989. Staff has attached the brochure of the property to provide the board more information about the history of the Berglund house. Section 34.54 of the City Code of Ordinances provides the outline for determination of sale of property. So the first step is the City Planning Commission reviews the property and determines if there is existing or intended future public purpose and use of the property. The master plan designates this area as medium density residential. It's which is an intention to be used residentially. There is a residence in the upstairs unit, and which has a kitchen, bathroom, and living space. There's extra storage on the upper floor and a bathroom that is not part of the apartment. The space has been converted into, the main floor has been converted into a museum space, but it's mostly to showcase furniture and Big Rapids memorabilia. It still has all the this is really loud. It still has all the living space that was in the original house, so it wouldn't be a hard conversion to turn it back into a single family home. The kitchen's still intact. There's actually still a fridge there. There's a stove there, cabinets. There's a bathroom on the main floor. There's living rooms, I would think was probably like a dining area, and lots of storage. So, because the property is zoned R1, using it as a duplex would not be a permitted use in that district, so it would have to be converted back into a single family home. Staff is currently discussing what to do with the furniture and the items that have been collected, and will work on a plan prior to selling the property. We've actually had some email correspondence with the Berglund family, or with people connected to the Berglund family, or who have been contacted by the Berglund family, and they're gonna come up sometime in the next couple of weeks to walk through the house to see if there's any memorabilia or furniture that they would like as descendants of for Berglund Furniture or the Pine Shop. The true cash value, so if you look this up on our assessing system, the cash value that we show is just based on what the rental portion of the property is, because of it being city-owned, tax structure works different, and we don't they don't assess the portion of the structure that is being used for a museum, so the cash value that we show in our system is extremely low. So I asked the assessor to do what his best estimate was of the true cash value without, going through and doing a full assessment of it. And he came up with between $212,000 and $225,000. So in your packet, you were included some drawings of the Berglund house, and those drawings are from the best we can tell, I think it's when they put the apartment in the upstairs and split the house. There is a difference. If you look in the upstairs unit area where it shows the upper foyer and then it shows like a storage room, that storage room actually is part of the apartment and not part of the access that's accessible from the museum side. But that's also where you would make a connection if you were to make it a single family home, because there's stairs that still exist. So so your job is to determine if it is surplus, make that recommendation to the city commission, and then the city commission makes a final decision on if it's surplus, and then would make a decision on whether they'd like to list the property for sale or not.
Thank you.
Yep.
You are the representative then also for the property?
Yes.
Is there any other party to speak?
So we did contact the members of the Historic Commission to let them know that this was our intention. They have somewhat disbanded, but we did contact Lynn Anderson, who was kind of the leader of the Historic Commission for a long time, to let her know what our intentions were. Her comment was that she understood. She didn't necessarily agree with us, but she also understood where we were coming from. And then we sent public notice to our surrounding property owners, like we always do for anything, and that would really be the only representative. We have been in touch with the tenant that is currently living in the apartment to let her know, like, we're starting this process and kind of what that time frame we're looking at, so that she has sufficient time to try to find other living spaces. We'll obviously work with her through the whole process.
Do I go to public comment now then? Okay. Is there any public comment regarding this? No public comment, so I can close for discussion.
So, Michelle, I'm assuming the city serves as the landlord for the apartment?
We do. So the Historic Commission for a long time had served as the landlord for this apartment and the apartment in the old jail. When we started working on doing work with the old jail, we took over the leases for both of those apartments. And so we now hold the lease with the tenants the old jail tenant moved out, but for the Berglund house. And so we serve as landlord. We have been in there to do our inspections like we do for other rentals in the community. And we've made some minor, like smoke detectors, that real minor type stuff. But, if there's a leak and something, we respond. Our guy, either Public Works responds if it's something they can fix. If not, we get a plumber in there or whoever needs to go in to make the corrections.
And the only other question I'm sorry.
Do we know the annual operating costs?
Not off the top of my head. The tenant mows. She would also have to pay utilities.
Do you know if it's an income or an expense?
I would say if you took what we've put into like furnaces and water heaters and things like that, we might be at a wash-ish.
The only other question I had was your paper indicates that it's rarely visited or used. Do you have the museum part? Do you have any specific numbers what that might mean?
I don't. I tried to get some. So if you go to the museum, I've been in it 6 times over the last couple months. They have a record like where they're supposed to write like who's visited and how many people. And the last one I saw was 2023 written down, but that doesn't mean they haven't had people visited. Sarah Lucas, who is at Ferris, emailed as a representative of the Historic Commission, or they've asked her if she would restart the Historic Commission. I'm not sure if she's agreeing to that or not, but she reached out to she was the one who reached out to let us know about being in contact with the Berglund family and stuff like that. And she said that they usually do tours on Sundays from 2 to 4. And I asked, well, how many tours have you done? Like, it's only a summertime tour. How many tours have been done? And she didn't know because she was just going to start doing them this year. And I didn't get a response on how many were done like last year.
Thank you.
Are there any covenants or deed restrictions?
Not that I'm aware of. The deed is in your packet, and I didn't see any deed restrictions in it. And we did find some paperwork that was done. Do you remember when that was, Grant? 2019? That talked about like how the relationship between the commission, the Historic Commission, the Berglund family, and the city was going to be as far as like what was in the building, and if any furniture was sold out of the building, that it was to go between the housing or the Historic Commission and the Berglund family. But it was more of like those kind of relationships. There wasn't any deed restrictions that I saw.
Historical site, registered historical.
Not.
When you say it was supposed to go between the Berglund family and the commission, do you mean the proceeds from the sale or, okay.
Yeah, so the proceeds from like furniture sale because I think the furniture sale some of the furniture had been donated by the family.
Okay.
Is there actual operating hours of the museum right now, or is it just those Sundays 2 to 4 that they were gonna start?
Sunday, so in the past they've always had the operating hours of Sunday 2 to 4. I don't know if it was like by appointment only. I can't imagine that someone would sit there every Sunday from 2 to 4 all summer long.
But the city didn't pay for someone to sit there.
We did not,
It was
no.
by the commission.
It was the
historical.
yes.
When was the notice sent out to the neighboring partners? And then has there been any consideration to remove the museum standard off of it and just retrofit it back to a single family and then increase the rent as a single family and maintain ownership?
So the notice was sent out at least 15 days. Our requirement for public hearings is 15 days, so we would have done notice at least 15 days before the meeting. I think we might have hit like 17 days on this one. As far as the city's really not set up to be a landlord. One, we're doing our own rental inspections then, which isn't great, right? We don't have a third party come in, or we should have to pay for a third party to come in. That's probably not. But we're also not set up, we're not set up to be a landlord. We're not set up to be profitable. we're set up to provide services for our community. I'm not sure that's providing a great, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not really what, we're not set up to own property that's not for public use. That's probably the best, fairest way to say it.
Thank you.
Do they have they figured out what they're going to do with the old jail yet?
We have not. So with the old jail, we just had a walkthrough with the state 2 weeks ago. And it goes to hearing with the state SHPO, which is the State Historic Office of Preservation. There's a missing letter in there. They make their meeting is September 25th in Lansing. They will make a recommendation to the National Historic Preservation, and that's basically, when they make a recommendation, it's pretty much approved nationally. So that will be the process to get it on the historic preservation list, which then opens it up for tax incentives for either us or developer, however that plays itself out. But there hasn't been any decisions made at this time. We're still in.
Place for a museum.
We're still in step one of that.
Do we have information on the house donated? When it was donated in 2016, was it donated for the use of a museum?
I didn't see any language when I pulled that stuff. I just found the deed.
I guess the thought I'm having is if it's a low functioning museum but still a functioning museum, is it a surplus?
I'm struggling with that myself.
Would it be a different question if they disbanded the museum first, had the bottom empty, the top rented or worked something out with that tenant, and then came and brought it to us as a surplus? Would it be a different situation?
So it's
Like, I mean,
not.
does that make sense?
I get where you're coming from. It's not a city museum. It was run by a volunteer group that has disbanded.
Was it a museum when the house was donated, or did the museum come?
It was a museum when the house was donated.
That was operating in that way, and there's a lot of donated stuff that was donated in the spirit of this thing. This flyer in here saying you can donate historical things that were donated with the intention of maintaining in that historical museum.
Yeah, so I'm walking through, they have a lot of the furniture tagged. Like,
Who donated?
who donated it? Some of it's Big Rapids, it has a Big Rapids history and it's Big Rapids produced furniture. Some of it's just old furniture that people thought
Fit a time period.
fit a time period, and we'll just donate this because we don't want to get rid of it, but we also don't want it. So that's going to be, we haven't figured out completely what we're going to do with what the Berglund, whatever the Berglund family doesn't take, and if the historic preservation group does rekindle with Sarah, we'll definitely work with them to try to figure out where that furniture is going. We've had conversations like, can we put it in offices or put it in the lobby, or try to, if it has some Big Rapids history in it, it's not our intent to get rid of it. I'm not sure we're going to hang on to stuff that's not related to our city, but it's still a process.
I'm going to ask you a question that asks you to speak for other people, but in your role with the city staff, are you aware of what spurred the conversation how did this come up as surplus property?
So when we started talking about the old jail started because it has damage that needs to be taken care of at some point, and it's, we need to start having those discussions or it's going to get to the point that it's failing. We're not there yet, but the porch was failing. If you haven't been by the old jail, it's propped up right now. And so that spurred the discussion of the old jail, which then spurred the discussion of the Berglund House and involving the Historic Society. And so in all of those discussions, we took over the leases. We were just going to continue where we were. The person in the old jail moved out. Person in the Berglund House was happy. Things were going well. We continued that lease. This year we got notice in the spring from the Garden Club, who maintains, if you've ever been to the Berglund House, there's a lot of flowers and landscaping that has been done, which was done by the Garden Club. They emailed us at the beginning of spring saying they no longer had the capacity to take care of the property and the garden area. The tenant mows the lawn. Our guys, we've told her if she doesn't want to mow the lawn, we'll send Public Works over to mow the lawn. They mow the old jail. So that's not a big issue. But the garden club saying like, we no longer have the capacity to take over this. The Historic Society not being in working or functioning order really and kind of disbanding. Like, what are we going to do with this property? It's not being utilized probably to its highest and best use. We need housing in the community. Maybe we should look at that.
You know,
What is housing?
I find it a very tough thing to get rid of because my wife's worked at MCMC since 2000, and seeing the changes of that hospital going from historical pictures hanging all through it to artworks that offend absolutely nobody. It's sad. Whenever you go there, you see no history of Big Rapids. I mean, and nobody has any idea what happened to all that stuff. It's probably in a Corwell warehouse downtown someplace. But it just, to me, it seems like it's the history of Big Rapids and it's not really costing us anything. It is serving as a residential unit currently, whether it's just one apartment of it, you know, and if that, I think we really need a little bit of cost analysis. If it is just a break even, well, you're a nonprofit, so.
There you go. Any thoughts to share? Tim, you got something?
I have a question. Is this part of the Park and Rec Master Plan?
Not that I saw, no.
Okay. The fence around the Berglund House, I believe, came from the old Maple Street Bridge.
The iron
fence. What's the plan for that fence? Will you leave it, or what are you thinking?
I didn't know it was from the Maple Street Bridge. I'm not sure if anyone did. We don't really have a plan. If it, that's some historic significance. We could definitely come up with a plan, move it to a different park, put some, information that it is from that, because I don't think it's labeled that way. I don't remember seeing a sign walking around saying that. So we don't really have a plan for that, and I'm not sure that anyone knew that.
I think it's the same as at the old jail. I think some of that fence was at the old jail also. So it was
very
it was in
similar.
the DPW garage area for a long time, and then it got parceled out to community parcels, and I think that was one of them.
One of them?
It's neat.
What's the rent?
We charge $8.25.
Have we been found, is there any compliance issue with doing the inspections and stuff like that? Has that come forward yet, or no?
No, I mean, it's a different, Craig's doing the inspections.
But it hasn't been an issue yet.
It hasn't come up as an issue. I'm not sure it.
Is there an opportunity to partner with a Reed City as an example, if they had a person?
Currently, the closest community that does rental inspections is Everett. Reed City, I think, is working on getting it. I don't know if they have it set up or not. I haven't heard. I know they've been working on it. And they use the building inspector as their rental inspector. They're probably not doing it for the $40 that we charge for a unit.
I think the two problems I have is like if the city wants out of these two options with the rental upstairs and the museum downstairs, then I would agree that it's a surplus. But I almost wonder if there's like conditions, if we could do conditions on it to where the museum has to be taken care of first to preserve any historical whatever, like the fence could be a big deal if that was. Then also with the tenants, like it horrifies me that at $825 that's low. That for a 2-bedroom that's low. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want the city to put somebody out on the street, right? So if we had that condition, they said they're going to work with them. Okay, let them move on to then consider it a surplus and sell it. Because that's really harsh in today's world to find out that you have a great rental, you've been a great tenant, and then they're selling it off from under you, and now you have to find a new place to go, and it's your city that's doing it. So those are the two biggest things that I'm struggling with, is the fact that it's like.
So I can tell you what we've told her.
Yeah, like what, and I don't know how much we can ask about their situation that
Yeah,
we
I don't
share
know.
publicly.
Yeah, I don't know her personal situation, but I can tell you what we've told her. We've told her that our intent would be to list it in the fall if she has a place to live by then, and if not, that we would consider holding it and prepping some of there's a few things that we need to take care of if we're gonna put it on the market, and that we would hold it till spring and give her some more time if she needed it. But we really would like it to be on the market, by spring, early summer, so that, which almost is a year. I mean, we shoot for the fall, but we also are trying to be understanding.
Did you contact the Housing Commission, since they are in the business of housing and they are a part of the city? Wouldn't that help you help the city not be a landlord, but?
We haven't contacted the Housing Commission. We could ask them if they would be interested in purchasing it. I don't know if you have to consider it surplus for that. I know that we don't have to do a legal bidding process like we do if we sell land. Like if you consider it a surplus and we put it on the market, we have to do a public process. If we're selling it directly to the Housing Commission, I know that we have some kind of an agreement where we don't have to put it on the market and have it be public, but I don't know about the surplus aspect of that.
Is there an option for the Housing Commission to manage the rental that the city owns? So
That would, they'd probably rather, they don't manage property they don't own.
okay.
So,
To my knowledge, I shouldn't say they don't, but I don't know of any that they do.
Sam, I really wanted to appreciate your comments there a few moments ago. And I really wanted to pick up where you left off, where you live, you work, you cherish the city you're in, and then you decide because of that you want to donate your assets to that city in the event that others might cherish and prosper in your footsteps to bring you up that ladder. In the environment that I find myself, I always look towards transparency when looking at things and making decisions, and I'm not sure I have all of the information that I would need to make a correct decision here. to ensure that we're getting the feedback from the community, or making sure we're making the right decision by them. Because I would hate to discourage others that are seeing this transpire and them not maybe offer their own assets or opportunities later down the line that might benefit the community as a whole in general. So I appreciate you there when you mentioned that.
Thank you.
I agree.
Is the Historic Commission, did you say they are disbanded? Is there you have a letter saying that? Would help.
I
think,
don't
to know that
know.
they, you know,
I can't remember through the old jail process if we got a letter or not.
okay.
I would kind of echo off of you two. I don't currently see this as surplus. Both are functioning, whether it's a very busy museum or not. It was donated to the city for not the intention of the city to just sell for income. It's not causing the city an expense, at least a large expense that we can say right now. And even if the Historical Society is disbanded, those kinds of things ebb and flow, and it's likely that at some point in the future there would be another, the same organization or a similar organization that I think would be willing to take over something like that. That's how I see it.
Yeah, like you don't need our decision to disband the museum. Right?
It's not their
It's
museum
not
to
our,
disband.
it's not our museum, so it's our property, but it's not we don't run nor operate
Yeah.
the museum. We
We just own a building that has museum type
that
stuff
came
in it.
with the museum in it.
And there's no current covenants or deeds to restrict the adherence of that or
No.
stuff.
Be helpful to have a copy of the letter saying that group is disbanded.
Okay.
I'm not sure that would change anything for me. I think those sorts of groups can come and go.
Great.
And I, to what you were saying, I don't think there was how you so eloquently put why they might have donated their home to the city, I agree with completely.
I appreciate you, and if I see that there were in certain terms and conditions agreed between each party when it was transferred here in the deed. But with all things considered, I believe that we need more information to make a quality decision on this. So it'd be my recommendation that we postpone this.
Are you making that as a motion or just have discussion?
What other information might you?
Yeah, that would be helpful. If you want to postpone it, no issue. I just need to know what exactly you're looking for.
I would like further community action or opportunity for input on here. I believe is the Historic Preservation Commission, has they provided an official letter of their dismemberment, or the decision to dismember the museum? Is there that action taken beneficial? If we had that information, that would be helpful.
Operating
Approvals,
costs?
Profit and loss statements, operating expenses as possible. And if we're gonna end up selling the property, I'd like to know how much it'd be worth. If we have a comparative market analysis
So
that
that's
was
what
done
that
on
true
that.
cost value
You know,
would
and I
be
see
from.
that there's that, but if we're gonna sell it, is it gonna be in-house? Is it, we're gonna hire an agent? What are the costs associated with that?
So the city has a contract with McNally, Joe McNally, with Remax together, and we're in that contract. It was a five-year contract when we signed it, and I think we have 3 years left. So if it happened in the next 3 years, we would sell it through him because that's who our contract is with.
So if we didn't have a clear plan for the contents of the museum, and if we're not Or are you saying the clear plan is to disperse it however it gets dispersed?
Yeah, so, I mean, we don't have an exact inventory of what's in there, for
I
one
think that's
thing.
the hard part. If there was something of sentimental value to the history of Big Rapids and it's getting tossed to the side, or is there, the city doesn't want to be a landlord, but is the city okay with storing and being a storage company for this, right? Like, are we gonna store the
Right.
stuff if there's something?
We're kind of doing that now.
Yep. Well, I understand that's kind of what I'm asking. If they're just gonna store it until they figure out if there's significance, or what to do with the stuff that is significant, it'd be so much easier to say like, hey, we had an empty house that's not being used for anything, surplus, done.
I gotcha. So,
And that's the hard part.
okay, so either figure out what we're doing with the contents and have like an inventory of what is there and what we think we can do with it, or do it before you come back.
And I think your plan that you laid out for the tenant is perfectly, I think that clears that up for me. That gives a lot of time for them, and you're willing to work with them, and you kind of laid that out. So that I'm okay with. It seems like having all that as a plan would make it easier to move forward with it. And if we could put that somehow into conditions or postponement or whatever.
Agreed. I just need to pull us back to what we have scope for here. If the decision that we're being asked, if we only have scope for is this surplus or not, is a different question than some of the things we're tackling right now.
Well, I mean, kind of, but if you're not to the point of considering it surplus, but you think there's an opportunity that it could be considered surplus, this list helps me figure out, how do we get there? If there's no opportunity for it to be considered surplus and you're completely against that, then this list is just stuff I'm gonna accomplish.
So I think it's fair to ask the commission again to rethink. There's some thoughts and feelings and passion on what's inside of this home. But tonight, are we prepared to make a decision on whether or not it's surplus, or do we need to postpone on that? I just wanna kind of rescope the thought.
So my opinion is, Sam, I'm with you on, it is surplus with some conditions that there's suitable relocation of the current tenants, and a plan is established to determine appropriate disposition of the furniture, collected items, or other historically significant items currently in the property. Then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think that clears it up. I don't think a postponement would be needed, because as long as they take care of it's the city, as long as they take care of the historical side, and we know that the tenants are being looked after, it's for, within reason, then it would be surplus. So I'm okay with the conditions if you made that motion.
I'll fly it out there and see where it goes. I move that the property at 218 Winter Avenue is considered surplus and available for sale to be recommended to the City Commission for approval because it meets the standards set in section 34.54 of the City Code or Ordinance with the following conditions. Condition number 1, there's suitable relocation of the current tenants. Condition number 2, a plan is established to determine appropriate disposition of the furniture, collected items, and relevant historical items currently present.
I'll second that.
So after a motion and second, you can have more discussion before there is a roll call vote if you want to.
Did you wanna add something?
I don't have to agree, right?
No, you can vote however you want. I'm just saying,
My
like,
only concern is I want to ensure there's enough transparency in the community, and I know we followed the protocol with the due notice there. I just don't see very many persons in the crowd tonight, and I understand the severity of what might take place, and I want to ensure that if anyone in the future might have the concept to donate assets to the city, with the due hope that we're following any covenants that we do make then. But I do see that there are none that were written here, so that's my stance.
I'm gonna vote no. I think that we're skirting around an ethical issue to get it to surplus so that we can then consciously vote that it is. The house is not surplus right now. It's being used.
I would have to agree.
I'd like to at least know that the Historical Preservation Commission is either here still or not. I think that makes a difference to me. Waiting a month, I don't know. I'm agreeing that I think.
I don't know if I can have all that information in a month,
Okay,
so it might be more.
so you want to postpone it until,
Well, you have a motion on the floor right now, unless someone wants to withdraw their motion. Or you can vote on it, and I have my marching orders. We can always bring it back, so it doesn't,
The current motion to paraphrase or summarize is to approve with conditions. I believe you stated the first movement of that motion. Do you want to continue or withdraw?
It's over here.
it was over here.
Oh,
Wrong.
I'm sorry. He seconded it, baby.
We ready for roll call then, or do we want to wait?
We're not ready.
Okay.
I don't think. I'm waiting to see if we're ready.
If it looks like more people are looking at the postponement, then we could always go back to approval after we get more information.
So if
Do
you don't, let me explain where you're at. You made a motion to approve with conditions. If you want to move forward with that motion, we would call a roll call vote.
And that is not a postponement. That is approving. Michelle will take care of the conditions, essentially.
Yeah. If you don't want to move forward, because I think you put the motion on to have more discussion and kind of get a feeling, which is fine. If you don't want to move forward with that motion, then you would have to move to withdraw your motion. And then someone can make a different motion if you want. So it's Rick, I think you made the motion, so it's your choice if you want to move forward with the motion or withdraw the motion.
So since we're still having open discussion, I'm interested in what information are we gonna gather in that time period? Postings been made, opportunity for public inputs here, notices published in the paper. What other information are we looking for? Because I personally feel the city should not be a landlord. And so although they currently got into the situation, it does appear to me, looking at that deed, that it looked like at the history of that paper that was put together, that property's been kicked around for a period of time and spent with the family, that in 2016, there was a quick claim deed that said, here city, here you go. So again, the one thing that I had kind of resonating with me is feedback from the Historic Preservation Committee. And part of that was to see if there was anybody representing them here at public comment. There was none of that. And I'm gonna rely on you to say that that is a defunct organization at this point.
Yeah, we called the previous, I don't know if she was the previous president, but she was definitely the president at one time and was the charge of historical buildings in Big Rapids. Lynn Anderson was the charge of historic preservation for the city of Big Rapids for a very long time. And she was notified. We personally called her and let her know.
So I guess I'm asking the question, what other information, I understand the cost analysis, that kind of stuff, but again, then we still maintain position as a landlord. And I don't know that that's the position of the city to be a landlord in that particular circumstance. So I'm certainly willing to the conversation. I'm trying to understand what other information, a formal letter from an organization? And who do you get that from?
well, if there's no one to get it
Well,
from
which
after.
organization? Because someone named Sarah's gonna start the tour
She's,
Sunday.
her email telling me said that she was asked to restart the historic preservation and to do tours on Sundays from 2 to 4.
So there's enough question I think to just get that squared away. Whether there is or isn't a group.
So if somebody wants to make that motion to get that information, I would be happy to withdraw my motion.
Is the home only surplus if the organization exists?
So here's what I don't fully understand. How did the Historic Commission become involved in this to start with?
Well,
This would be easy.
I don't,
Because the city didn't want to be involved in a museum.
So I understand that.
I think that's
I
why.
think that makes sense, Tim, or at least I can understand that rationale. So I think there are things, and this is where I think we're all in agreement and we're all struggling with the same. There's things of historic significance there. So there's real property and there's other tangibles. The other tangibles, I think, can be protected. The question then becomes the building itself, is it surplus or not? Currently, if I'm understanding everything that I've read and what you've mentioned, the upper part is the city is acting on behalf as a landlord, and the lower part, that's not clear to me. The city owns it, but who's paying for the heat bill for that? Who's making sure there's not future damage done to it? So it's very clear to me that you were helpful, Michelle, in answering that you received communication from the gardeners that they're not taking care of the problem or the property anymore because you can drive by and see that. So the problem sometimes becomes, in our zeal to maintain the integrity of a historical site, we can allow it to deteriorate. And that to me is the definition of surplus. If we can allow it to deteriorate, it is surplus. So when I looked at the actual, and the ordinance is pretty clear. It's really about public use, all known existing and intended public uses of the property. That's what we're being tasked with. So all known existing and intended, we might understand the existing. I'm not clear on the intended. And if there's some interest in delaying it, to give you a very specific, I hate to say marching order, but clarification that's needed, I have no problem with drawing that motion. Let's just be clear on what that is. So we know the existing public uses of the property. We don't know the intended public uses of the property. If there is no intention to use that property further, to me it seems very plain. There's no known existing or intended public uses of the property. It's surplus by definition. I still hold with we've got to take care of the tenant that's currently there, and we've got to make sure that any of the furniture and collected items and historically relevant items are protected. I think that's got to be part of it. But I think, Tim, what I hear you saying, and maybe Kate you as well, and Jeremiah you as well, is what's the intended use? That's the one piece that I sit here and I'm chewing on right now myself. So how would you prefer we move forward? I don't have a problem withdrawing that motion because I've got it written down, so I'll remember next time. But by the same token, if we can get some information that'll help guide us in that decision, but I'm not clear what that information is. I think a letter from this, or at least a determination from the Historical Society, that's part of it. I can even understand a little bit of the cost analysis. I think about things differently. So I think about things as a landlord. I think about risk mitigation and some other things. So I would have to agree with Michelle that I don't think the city should be a landlord. I just don't. And I don't think that's the intent. So is it to focus on that particular piece of information? Would that be helpful? I'm just asking.
If the city owns the property, but doesn't want to have a museum, which I wouldn't understand why the city wouldn't want a museum, because there's a lot of history here. And if all you're saying is, oh, well, we need to track the items and see what happens to them, well, if we don't have a museum, who really cares what happens to them? So, to me, I mean, the building's there, it's really not costing the city anything. You know, the asset will grow over time, so why jump out of it right now? And whether that person is considered a tenant or a caretaker of the property, like the person who lived at the jail, you know, it just seems to me that it's a shame to get rid of more of the city's history. That it's just that doesn't have a place to go, except where it is.
Regardless of, for me, it's regardless of what organization is running it. So the letter is not relevant to me. Someone named Sarah might take it over. I'll tell you right now, I intend to volunteer once Sunday a month. Yeah, I mean, the letter of disbanding is nothing to me. The question is it surplus? I don't see it as surplus. It's open to the public right now with public things in it, as it was intended to when it was donated to the city, from what we understand.
I agree. For me, the intent was put in place when this additional covenant was made, when the city took ownership of it. And as all things do change, we'd have to see where that relationship is currently between the family, the historic preservation, the museum, and all members whom have donated. And without a clear guide for that, I cannot maintain the integrity and to truthfully ensure the fidelity of the city of Big Rapids. I'd like to ensure that we're doing all we can for that. So if you're able to withdraw, I would like to add in the official letter from the Historic Center Commission of their dismemberment, or if they're intending to re-establish themselves, what their intent would be for this property under that new formation, or an official letter of the notice of the museum closure, if that was their intent. If they maintain the historic preservation, that's one thing, but if they also require to maintain the occupancy as a museum, that's an additional consideration amongst the profit and loss in the current lease, as all items in my own inventory have their own value that may increase or decrease in time, tangibly or intangibly. It all depends on that intent that I see in the future, and right now I can't see the foreseeable future, as all things are changing and we have new developments, new people coming into town. I see a lot of young persons in town, those elderly people searching for these type of recreational activities, and as a growing city, I think it would be a great asset.
That also does not mean that the city would need to maintain the apartment if we don't want to be landlords.
When you say that notice was sent out, was notice sent out because of it being the surplus property? Notice was just sent out within a range of the property, not to the whole city. Correct?
Yeah, so we did 300 feet of notice, which in a city is it's like 3 houses out. It's 300 feet in a city is a pretty good distance around the property. And then notice is also published in the paper.
Gotcha.
You know, even if, like you said, the Historical Society and the Flower Society aren't doing it, I see other people stepping in to take that over. I was not even aware that the Historical Society had disbanded, and I see Lynn downtown all the time. And I don't know if that's due to what happened up by the TKE house with with that building being,
So for a long time, they were very active in trying to create a historic district in Big Rapids, right? There was multiple pushes over the years to create a historic district in Big Rapids. I was not a part of any of that. It was all before I was here, but I knew about it or know about it a little bit. But since probably the last push, which I would say it was like, I remember it when I first started at the county, which was like 2012. It was 2012. So probably like 2013, 2014, I feel like was maybe their last push to make a historic district. Since that time, the Historic Commission has mostly been a landlord type operation for the old jail and for the Bergland House. And then they also ran the museum hours. I think it was more of an on-call thing. I don't think to my knowledge, they didn't have people sitting there, but I don't have clarification on that. I can try to find out more information and numbers.
There used to be flyers around, and I mean, like probably a year ago, there used to be flyers around that would say the hours of operations. I think at some point that was the case. Schools go there, I believe, as well. They did.
There's a sign there now with the hours.
Yeah, there's a sign.
Still up.
has this been discussed in the Pioneer at all? I mean, has the community really seen that this is coming?
It almost seems like we need to just put a shout out like, hey, does anybody want to do a museum? Because the city has this museum and it's not being used in its current state. Either we have to decide it's surplus, or somebody has to take up and get the museum going again. I mean, it's because it seems like there's so much interest in like the.
You don't have the authority to force someone to start a museum.
But it seems like that's what we're getting at. Is we want
If
the
you
museum,
did,
but-
let me tell you all the great things I would have you be doing for the city, Sam.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It seems like that's what we're caught on, right? Is that we want a museum in town. So like, if we
You have
consider
two.
this surplus, is this going away?
There's also a county museum.
Oh, Ferris.
No, there's one across from the county courthouse too.
So, but I don't have any more discussion on it.
So you don't have the authority to force that. You do have the authority to either postpone, deny, or approve the surplus. It's
It's a recommendation. to
and
the
it's a
city.
recommendation,
They make
and
the final decision.
yeah.
Rick.
So I'm thinking that, is there information of value that could help people determine the known existing intended public uses and the historical character and significance of the real property to make that determination? Or if further information is not gonna really change people's opinion, then I'm ready to move forward.
I see where you're going.
I'm sorry?
I see where you're going. I don't need any more information.
I wonder if information about more history of like the transactions and sale of the property would be helpful. Like, what was that relationship and why did it end with the Berglands giving the property? What was the discussions going on? I can try to find some of that. Lynn would know. I would assume a fair amount of it. There's others that would know minutes. There might be some minutes.
I'm good with that.
So we're back to,
We can either vote on your motion, or you
Would-
can withdraw it.
Is there anyone who would, more information would change could or would change their opinion?
Yes.
There you go. So there's at least one.
all right. So if that more information will help us make a better informed decision I will withdraw my motion and let you make another motion as long as we're succinct in what we're after.
Sam, you have to withdraw your second too.
I will do that.
Was it official then, that you withdrew?
We just need another motion and exactly, I would add that the history around the transference of that title, when the historical committee, have they been there since the beginning? That information would be helpful because again, I think a second part that I'm interested in, I think this is Kate, kind of where you're going, Rory, same thing. The historical character and significance of the real property and the structure on it. The difficulty becomes, it's only historical if people realize it's historical. If nobody realizes it's historical, then it's of no value. And I'm still gonna always go back and with those other two conditions. I think the property, if it is decided to be surplus, the property needs to be taken care of inside and the tenant as well. So that being said, somebody wants to make a motion.
Before we make the motion, can we clarify what all this, what we're gonna ask for as a group, so that
Would you
one
like
motion can be
what I
made?
have written down so far?
Okay.
Please.
Further of public input, which I'm just gonna rely on Kathy to help me with that. And hope that there's a few people watching the meeting. Operating expenses for the old jail, an inventory plan, so an inventory of what's in there and a plan of what we're moving and where, what we think could happen with it. More history on the sale of the property and the transfers of the property. And then some information about the actual historic commission and how they're operating or intend to operate in the future. That's all I got. Did I miss?
Anyone would like to add to that list? Okay, would anyone like to make a different motion?
I would like to make a motion to postpone. I move to postpone the sale of the properties at 218 Winter Avenue until July 15, 2026. Meeting
Can we just put a later date? I don't know if I'll make the July date by with that list.
Absolutely. Should I start over?
You can just change to a future meeting.
I move to postpone the sale of the property at 218 Winter Avenue until a future date that's appropriate, meeting with the Planning Commission. Due to the reasons, we would like further public input, an operating expense report, an inventory plan of the what, where, and how it will be managed, the covenant history of the sale of the property and how it began the ownership, and two, how it became owned by the city. The Historic Commission's intent for their commission, as well as their intent for the museum.
Support.
Would any,
Roll call. Borowski.
No.
Paladis.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
McLeod.
no,
Ruddick.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
It passes
yeah,
to postpone.
yes, it passes to postpone. Thank you for the roll call. I'm now gonna move on to general business, which is a zoning ordinance update review.
Hold
Michelle,
on.
pass it over to you.
Yeah. For some reason, my projector is not working. I don't know why. I thought it was because my computer's asleep, but it's not.
Do we have it? In the
You do, but I have a bunch of notes and I have it like.
Must just be the projector turning on. I see the information on here.
There you go.
There we go.
If it worked right the first time, it wouldn't be technology, you know?
No. That wouldn't be part of my life. Okay. So we are going over 3 different sections. As you can see, title, purpose, scope, which we pretty much went over last meeting, and there's not a lot to it. General provisions and signs. So let me get to my page because I have a bunch of notes that I typed in of what I wanted to talk about. So the title, purpose, and scope. Last time we talked about, you guys had concerns about the language for conserving property values and that it would tie you to something. So I emailed our attorney on his opinion to that, and basically his opinion was that it doesn't hold you to anything because this is the title, purpose, and scope, or intent, purpose, and scope of the ordinance is like the broad view of why you do zoning in the first place, and not like why you're specifically approving or denying a specific application. So it's a bigger picture than what you're gonna be looking at for each application before you. So he didn't have any concerns with it, and he actually recommended to not change it too much because then you could make it more concerning. So if you're good with his opinion,
We're good with that.
Yep.
I'm good with
As
that.
long as the lawyer's.
we don't argue with the lawyer, yeah.
We're good.
All right. Bear with me because it's a lot of scrolling. So in the general provisions, I'm just gonna kind of highlight what changes were made. A lot of the language is very similar to what our existing ordinances. We fine-tuned some parts of it. We, made it flow better. We made it, tried to make it easier to understand. But one of the things that we did add was accessory dwelling units, which I know is a big issue. Right now in our zoning ordinance, we don't allow accessory dwelling units at all. The proposed that is in our zoning district right now is that they be allowed in R2 and R3 by right, and be allowed in R1 by by special use, which means it would come before you. But then there's also this section doesn't lay that out. This section of the ordinance lays out, like, if you do allow accessory uses, dwelling units, this is what they have to follow. These are the rules they have to follow. And one of the big ones that I think is helpful is that they can only be on owner-occupied property. So the owner would have to either occupy the accessory dwelling unit, or the owner would have to occupy the house. It doesn't specify which one, but that they would have to occupy one of them. And if you think about our R2 and R3 zoning districts, those properties tend, not all of them, but tend to be more of our rental properties. So you're probably talking about a few. And then there's also some size requirements in the accessory dwelling unit rules. They have to be a certain size or are limited to a size. They have to be connected to our water and wastewater systems. It has to be compatible in character. And it gets into some of the details, construction materials, dimensions, landscaping. So it's about as defined as you can get as far as compatible.
it has to have its own storage space. Can't have excessive traffic. You can only have one. And then there's limits on how big it can be compared to the current dwelling on the property. And lot coverage still plays a role, and there's setback requirements. So is there any questions? I wanted to go over that in a little bit more detail because it's something that's not currently in our ordinance, and I know it's a very talked about concept and lots of discussion around it. And so I just wanted to go over, these are the standards if the city chooses to move forward with accessory dwellings. These units, these were the standards that were outlined in the ordinance to put in place.
Michelle, on, let's see, 5.032A.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Let me make a note that
I don't remember either.
I can't
I looked back
remember.
in the redacted one or the red copy that was the same way, so.
Yeah, and the red copy wouldn't have it because all of this is new.
Glad we all saw that.
Oh, so yeah. Okay. So what's the driving force of accessory dwelling units in the first place? How did this become such a interest of the city?
So the driving force, I don't know if it's a city driving force as much as it's talked about nationally, it's talked about statewide, it's a way to allow affordable housing. It's not the only way to allow affordable housing, but it is a way to allow affordable housing. It's also a way to allow generational housing. You own a house, you raise your family in that house, your kids want to live around you, you don't want a big house to maintain. Buying a house is a lot more expensive. The cost of housing is high. This may be an affordable option for some people as a way to either move family to have generational living, whichever way it works. Family moves into the accessory dwelling unit, family moves in, or you can afford to buy a house, but it's tight, and you have an accessory dwelling unit that you rent out as supplemental income to help pay your mortgage. So there's lots of different scenarios that accessory dwelling units provide. I think a big fear of accessory dwelling units is if you have two rentals, right? You have the accessory dwelling units rented and the houses rented. There's not a lot of oversight of those properties unless you have a present landlord that's on top of it. So I think the caveat that the committee looked at of having one of the structures have to be owner occupied somewhat helps with that. It probably doesn't cure it all. Everyone keeps their property differently, but it can be helpful.
And it was listed in our master plan, is that correct?
There was discussion of it in our master plan, yeah. We did the community engagement session. We had ADUs as a topic at that community engagement session. Unfortunately, it was like the snowiest night of the month, so it didn't make it great to have attendance, but we did have 25 people show up. And there are some that are completely against ADUs. I can appreciate and understand that. There's some that are okay with it being done a certain way, and there's some that are for that. It was a very very mixed bag of reactions that we got. We did have more green stickers than red, which would indicate that it was probably more for it, but there were also a fair amount of red, so you can.
And we don't know whether the reds came from the R1 district or the R2 and 3.
Right. At that time, it didn't, I could pull those boards and look, cause we have the community engagement report, but I don't think at that time it was distinguished what districts. It was more just a general question of, are you okay with ADUs? Would you be okay with if they were attached? Would you be okay if they were detached? Those kind of questions.
It kind of makes the property a lot more attractive too. Like in my work, we see a lot where where those ADUs are like there's an aging population who in cities have bigger houses than they can keep, and it allows them to keep it owner occupied but split some of it off and maybe let family live in or something like that. And I liked it because that's exactly what I saw in my research as well, is that you got to find a middle ground in these, you know, big college cities too, to where instead of turning one into 2 rentals and splitting it up into more student housing, how can it be for families? And that could be one, is having it owner occupied. And I thought that was kind of a really cool idea. Now, I did have a question about though. That means so R2 and 3. What's that process? Is there an inspection or anything to it, or?
So if it's a rental,
And it's by right.
so how we would treat it, if it's a rental, we would inspect it. If it's not a rental, we don't. I mean, we would inspect it in the building process, but we're not gonna inspect it once they're living in it. Which is the same for any single, like, we don't come into your house and inspect it cause you own it. If you rent it, we're gonna inspect it.
With the plethora of sheds-like structures available for sale anywhere from Walmart to the corner by the airport, how do you know the difference between my lawnmower shed and my she shed that I'm gonna sleep in but did not pipe water or sewer to and does not meet these conditions?
If you're sleeping in it and it doesn't have the qualifications that are required in the building code to be occupied, you're gonna get tapped. You can tell. You might have, it might take a couple months, but you can figure out if someone's living in a shed or
There
not.
are ways of enforcing that. Okay.
Did they come up with a family definition that's later in this?
We will talk about, yeah, we're still
Okay.
still finessing
I knew that was kind of something
the
that I didn't know.
definitions of families and single family and multifamily and group house. Like, we're still finessing some of that, so we're still working out some of those things, but so that's not in here. The definition section will actually probably be the last section that we review, because you can't write all of your definitions until you have the whole document done.
It seems to me that the ADU makes sense if you add it on to a existing structure, whether it's an attached garage or you add on to a home versus another standalone structure in a yard. And I think basically you could probably do that now. But this is an idea that's come up because of the housing crisis in many communities, looking for ways to
Increased density.
increase density. And I don't think we have a issue with density in Big Rapids. I think we have issues with workforce housing. I mean, that's what I've heard. I think that came out in the master plan. So I'm okay if you want to add on to your house, and if the rules or the use of a lot is maybe relaxed to a point that allows some of that, I think makes some sense. Standalone areas, I'm just not,
What if the
seems odd to
structure-
me. I don't know the benefit.
What if the structure is already there?
Like if you wanna
Converting a
convert,
detached garage.
converting a detached garage. So if, as long as it met the zoning criteria, you would have to pull the proper building permits to
To change it into.
yeah.
that.
If this were adopted, yeah. You would have to, so you'd have to have plumbing, you'd have to have electrical, you'd have to have, heat. You know, it would have to meet residential building code, you'd have to put insulation in, you'd have,
It would have to be renovated.
it would have to, yeah.
I think I have a question about that where, you know, in section 503B1, it states not integrated into a primary residence on a lot shall be considered an accessory dwelling unit. But then on 2E, it goes into retrofitting an accessory dwelling unit within an existing accessory building or garage shall meet the applicable building codes. But then it goes into, and this is where my question comes in, the storage of garage space within existing accessory building, we must maintain a specific square feet for that. But I don't see a minimum size of accessory dwelling unit that we must accommodate for our residents. As I see that there's a lot, because the concern is there's a lot of buildings out there. The building code is specific, and I see that over in the front where we have the International Property and Maintenance Code, we have to apply by that. But landlords and developers can get very clever when developing and putting things, and I would hate to see this abused in a manner that wouldn't facilitate a good quality living environment for our future residents, or end up with some accessory dwelling units that would end up causing more harm to our infrastructure in the future when we have to repair those or cause changes.
So the building code doesn't have a minimum square footage. They took it out for a house. There's no minimum square footage for a residence in the building code anymore. Whether that stays that way, I have no idea. They do have room square footage requirements, like each type of room has to have a certain square footage to be considered a occupiable space. So like there's specifications for bedrooms and bathrooms and kitchens and all of that. So they would have to meet that kind of space with the building code. That's where the 288 square feet comes from, actually, because they have a storage requirement in the building code of how much storage is required for a structure.
Is that, I apologize for interrupting, and is that accessible storage? Is it clearly defined? I know you talked about definition, but accessible storage and storage are considered two different possible things, like under crawl space of a storage of a trailer versus a walk-up attic
So
storage.
typically, I think in the building code, and building is like that much of my knowledge. I think it talks about it being like closet space or exterior type storage. I don't think it talks about the definition of accessible, but it does give examples of like, because, right, manufactured homes don't have attached storage, but they do have closet space. And they do have like utility storage areas, and that's where they gain their square footage for storage. So I don't think it talks about whether it's accessible or not, though. I can't remember those words.
Yeah, I thought the square footage was kind of weird too, because, like I know what HUD says, but that's different compared to what like the building code would say. But like for a room, it does list like it can't just be an empty shed, right? It has to have a kitchen, has to have a bathroom, has to have one sleeping room, stuff. So like it might not give specific square footage for each of those rooms, but they gotta be there. So
Yeah.
there's that too.
and on face value, for me, you know, just looking at this, if I was just a normal resident moving into town, swiping through this, I would see, okay, not integrated into a primary resident. Okay, but then if I went to E, I would see it would say something else. But then I would also be concerned or questioning about the size of the square foot, if there's no minimum size square foot. for
But E
housing.
doesn't say something else.
No, it just,
It says if you want to put it in a,
retrofit, yeah.
it says if you want to put it in an existing accessory building or garage, you can. But you have to meet, which is different than a primary residence.
But there's no minimum size. I would just hate to see it abused in a fashion where we have a lot of smaller residences in Big Rapids as well as a lot of larger residences. And we're thinking, oh, this will be used for larger residences, but those with the smaller residents have the same rights as those with the large. So I'd want to make sure that this is also facilitating what we need there.
So we don't have a minimum square footage. Is something that I could take back and ask them if they'd like to add or look into. We do have a maximum square footage that it can't be more than 1/3 the square footage of the primary dwelling. So we do have like a maximum square footage, which that when with it being the primary dwelling, that would not include like their garage space. It would just be the dwelling.
And again, if you're converting that, you can, as the homeowner, you can choose which dwelling, right? There's nothing that stopped that. I didn't see, like, you could choose the ADU as the homeowner for owner occupied, then you could rent out the larger space.
Yes, yes. So I think we just put that the owner, the property has to be owner occupied.
And that's just not for R1, that's R2 and R3 also.
Yes. And so the committee, I think's concern, or what they were trying to do there, is to but to look at all of our rental properties that already have maybe 8 residents on them, 9 residents on them, and now like not allowing some of that chaos that is caused by like overuse of the property. In some cases, not all of our rentals are that way, but some of them, you know, they've chopped these houses up, not allowing the landlords to like, well, now we can build an accessory dwelling unit and put 4 more people in. Like, no, this is meant to be a home ownership opportunity.
Is this an issue now? Like we're talking about all the rules of having these, but like if somebody had, like if you thought somebody was already living in a shed on another property, and without having the ADU rules there.
We have accessory dwelling units in Big Rapids.
Okay.
There are some that have been here for a long, long time. We have one that's in a rental.
So now this.
You have several, I think. A few
Yeah,
in rentals.
but I mean the whole
I
property
rented
is.
one.
Yeah. I mean, they're here.
Yes.
Right. So this gives us a framework at least to where if there's an issue with it, right, this says it has to meet these specifications.
So ones that are existing would be allowed to continue to exist how they exist today. So you can't,
Non-conforming.
they're non-conforming, so they would be permitted to operate how they are today. If there's one that's already operating and say it's completely rental, the whole property is rental, but at some point someone owned it and moved into one of the structures, they would lose their legal non-conforming status because now they would be considered conforming because it's an owner-occupied property,
Right.
and it would not be permitted to go back.
I see some advantages to owner operated when we talked about like Airbnbs. Absolutely see some advantages. It's not gonna hurt anything to write that in, but there's nothing stopping, there's nothing stop, there's a lot of rentals in this town that will be maintained the way they are maintained, whether the owner lives there or not.
Right, yeah.
I don't like the owner occupancy part of it, unless you're going to tag it to R1 district, which is where 95% of the complaints about the additional units come from. So it's not the people in R2 and R3 that are complaining that they don't want to see any ADUs.
Right.
It's people in the R1s.
In R1, it's not by right in R1, right?
Correct, it's a special use.
It would have, so it would have to come through us to get put in an R1.
And maybe having a minimum square foot would find a medium ground there where we could help deter. That's my thought. If there's a minimum square foot, it would help deter landlords from chopping their properties up, and it would ensure that we're making our quality R1 district a suitable environment that people would want to live in, that is cohesive with our overall, Big Rapids master plan.
Michelle,
Yes,
how many ADUs can you have on your property?
one.
Just one?
Yes.
But if you have just an accessory building, you can have three.
Right now, we don't have a limit on how many accessory build. I don't really want to say that out loud, but
Right, you could
tonight,
have a garage here, then an ADU here.
right
Says
now,
maximum number of detached accessory buildings shall
Is-
not exceed 3 detached accessory buildings in a residential district.
correct. That's new. The number, having a limit on the number of accessory buildings is new.
And there's still no minimum square feet of those
No.
either, so.
There is, a minimum width of 24 feet, for what that's worth.
Where are you at? Because that's not under ADUs.
No, it's under DUs, and if it still counts, 5.17A1.
Yeah, so are we done-ish with dwelling units? Want to go through the rest and come back? Because
Can you answer just real quick, does that apply to the ADUs? It's just a dwelling unit, but would the ADU, I mean, is it all dwelling units?
I don't know that.
Definition,
I don't know the answer to that.
I feel like that'd be in the definition at the end, we'd have to
By
ensure.
definition, it'd be a definition.
It would probably.
America.
So we will have specified what an accessory dwelling unit is defined as well as what a primary dwelling
Okay.
unit. And so maybe the changes we have, the primary, we need to say instead of, I'll talk to her about that. Cause the dwelling unit section that you have, the 5.17 that you have is not gonna be the final version. 'Cause
Okay. When you were saying that, are you suggesting that she'll add primary or accessory anytime dwelling unit is written?
We probably
Okay.
should, to clarify, yeah.
Well, and if you're adding one,
Special use or land use.
the only thing I don't like about the 5.03 is that 3D.
Hold on, I can only,
Scroll faster.
right,
5.03D?
Yeah. The owner occupancy of it. Because that is referring to R2 and R3 because R1 is not by right, but R2 and R3 are. So is it the intention to add density of housing? So if somebody wants that on their property, or they can put another 2-bedroom apartment on the property, and they can meet the parking, and they hook to the city, it it just seems odd to me that they would make it owner occupied in the R2 and R3. I disagree with that.
Would that be like the example of like the generational housing?
No. So the yes, owner occupy could be an example of generational housing. It could also be an example of, it could be lots of examples, but it would have to be the owner could live in the house, or the owner could live in the accessory dwelling unit and rent the house, or have their family live in the house, like their extended family. So as long as someone that owns the property lives on the property. I think the reasoning behind it again goes, I know that there are some owner occupied housing in R2 and R3, a significant amount of it. Rory's one of them. A lot of it is rentals. But there are some owner occupied housing in that situation. And I think the thought behind that is Big Rapids has a history of not great landlords, right?
Yep.
I mean, let's be truthful. And so the thought behind that is that if you want to put an accessory dwelling unit on the property and you put it in a property that is already chopped up rental, that's not been maintained, why would we add to that by letting it go? Where if you require it to be owner occupied, you have some oversight, right? So I think that was some of the thoughts, and it doesn't mean it's not a rental that it's not an income property. It's just the owner has to live on it.
Because that could be if somebody's kid's going to school and they buy the property for the kid while they're here, they could put an ADU and then rent that out, and it could be 2 rentals technically if the kid buys it while he's going to school.
Well, if the kid's on the deed, it's not a rental, but he can't have other people who aren't related to him live with him. But he could live in the ADU.
And with like what they call like mother-in-law suites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we could put out in our yard, we could put an ADU up and rent it out to the mother-in-law, so she's not.
Right. I mean, one thing I think that people think of is they're like, oh, people are just gonna plop down sheds and then we're gonna have all these ADUs. To put an ADU in is gonna be
Expensive.
It's not a cheap,
Not every lot will house it.
and not every lot has the room to put it because you
It's
can't.
just limited by the size. And
Mhm.
it just isn't gonna, not everybody's gonna have that opportunity.
Right, because not every lot's big enough to meet lot coverage requirements.
Can I put in a she shed, not run water to it, and not sleep in it?
Yeah, it's an accessory unit.
Just a unit, okay.
It's a shed or a garage.
And a 3.
She sheds.
If you do it before this is adopted, there's no limit.
It's an interesting.
I don't actually want. I remember when we had the discussion, there was a lot of the mother-in-law apartment passion, but also then there was well, what about the people who just want the she sheds or the whatevers, right?
They're
So-
accessory unit, so they're just an accessory use of the property. They're not accessory dwelling unit, and the ordinance limits it to 3. So I'm just gonna keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got your vibes on accessory uses. I got comments on if we should add minimum square footage. I think I fully understand what your concerns are. So we didn't make changes to minimum lot width. It's the same way it's described in our ordinance now. Accessory structures and uses in non-residential districts, we did make some changes to, so we added limitations. We also put it in a table format to make it more readable, because it was hard to read before that. The setbacks, height limitations, That kind of information is still the same. So are the size limitations, and the locations are the same. The main change is that we limited the detached number, which I think is a good thing, right? No one wants 10 sheds on a property. Comments?
This might be a semantic, but is there thought on what a consideration of a attached shed would be? If I just stack 3 sheds next to each other and connect them with a 2x4 and a fence, is that one unit?
That is not, because they're built separately.
Okay.
Could be a garage, right? The garage is one, detached garage is one.
A detached garage would be one, and then the clear vision corners, we did not change. The drawing is the same as what we have now. Through lots, that information is the same. Electric vehicle charging, this is a whole new section. Obviously, our ordinance was written before electrical vehicle charging existed. We just have that it's allowed as an accessory use, and there's language getting added to our off-street parking loading about design, mainly for commercial uses. But basically, we have that it's allowed.
The only
I'd
concern,
almost
But not a
read, like,
requirement.
if I wanted to, could I read that I can run one out to where I park on the street?
No,
I don't
because
know.
you don't own the property
Okay.
to the street. It's right of way.
Okay.
You want to put it on the outside of your garage, you can.
Yes,
this is for private use, not for commercial use.
So it's in any zoning districts that we allow electric charging stations in any zoning districts.
In commercial or private use, and there's nothing, maybe this isn't the right area, nothing in here about like fire or risk mitigation.
It does feel very wide open.
So we can't, zoning doesn't regulate fire. Like, that's
Okay.
building code, and they have to fall under the electric code guidelines when they're installed. And so that's not something that we would regulate in zoning.
I would just, okay, that's just my biggest concern, once these things light on fire, they go. And there's and with the old city, and to maintain our history, I would hate to see
You know, I get it, it's just that's not zoning.
thank you.
Yep. Exceptions to dimensional requirements, so this is like setbacks, height, we have height limitations, but if you have a chimney, you can go over that height limitation. Those are pretty much the same as what they were, and the average depth of existing is the same. We added, so it's always been in this commercial district, that new structure, or the C2 district, which is our downtown, that new structure shall be set back in line with existing structures. We haven't really got to that. We're creating a different zoning district called the Neighborhood Mixed Use Zoning District. It's gonna replace the RR district. You'll learn a lot about that next month. But that's mostly like State Street area, North State Street, and where else did we do that? I think the area around Simon's area, kind of north of the middle school. Simon's area is being like neighborhood mixed use, where you kind of allow some commercial, some residential, but so that language was also added, or we added NMU to be able to, you have to maintain that site line that's existing. If there's structures there already, like on North State Street, you have to keep those lines. Permitted projections, we did change this up a little bit, not huge. Whoops, that got added in a weird spot. We did change that. We didn't change what we allowed, but we did change how far we allowed it. So right now in our ordinance, and this actually has come up, that before that we didn't have anything that said, it said you could, an overhang could go beyond what the setback requirement was, but we didn't have how many feet it was allowed to go beyond that setback. So you could put your post in at the setback line, which is where the structure is, would be measured at, and you could have a 10-foot overhang if you wanted under our ordinance right now. So we restricted that back to 3 feet, which is what's pretty similar. That's pretty standard in zoning. 2 or 3 feet overhangs allowed. Beyond that, you can't engineer it to hang off 10 feet.
Is there a specific section in the zoning ordinance for air rights for properties?
We don't. Air rights are typically more popular in like big cities because you're building skyscrapers that block, sunlight and that kind of stuff. The highest building we allow is 3 stories. So we don't really get into the air rights discussion because you're not really blocking a significant amount. And I think, so like our R3 district allows 3 stories, mostly 3 stories in commercial, but when you think of 3-story buildings, you think of them being probably nowadays a multifamily. Most people don't build 3-story single family homes anymore. And so we did put in our district regulations that multifamily has to have bigger setbacks from property lines than if you were to build like a duplex or a single family home, to try to protect some of that space. It's easier to do it that way because we don't have the large skyscrapers than is to go through and do the air rights.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Essential services, we did split out exempt essential services and non-exempt essential services just because with cell phone towers and things like that, they're like an essential service in society right now, but actually they're not they're regulated under zoning. So we split those out. Not a big difference from what we had, but we didn't have it separated out. Sewage and water supply is the same. Stormwater management, we've been having some internal discussions about stormwater management. Right now, we do stormwater. We have our own stormwater ordinance, a separate ordinance from the zoning ordinance, and so that is what regulates stormwater when a development happens. We have been having discussions with our engineer about how to address stormwater ponds, because you have to, when you build, you have to maintain the water on the property. You can't, and let it flow off slowly. It can't run everywhere. And so we've been talking with our engineer about some options, and so we'll be adding some stormwater management stuff into the zoning ordinance pertaining to what type of storage we want to see in certain districts. Like, we don't want a pond in our downtown to maintain stormwater, put it underground, right? So, there's some areas of the community that it's okay to have a pond on. Most of them are dry, not all of them. I get pointed out one that is not dry very regularly. Most of them are dry, so it's not a huge deal, but it also takes up a significant amount of land and we're already landlocked. So we're having those discussions. There will probably be some changes to that. And our engineer will help us through on like what most communities or different ways communities are handling that. Outdoor storage of rec equipment. This is almost all the same. Time frames are the same. Location is staying the same. The only thing we did is we added some language about how the upkeep of the trailer or recreational vehicle must be, because we get pushed back when we do some enforcement. So we tried to beef up our enforcement capability where, flat tires on things that have been sitting and there's moss or mold growing up the side of a rec vehicle. Like now this would give us some tools to be like, no, see, the zoning ordinance says you have to have it in good upkeep. So that's all we changed there. Walls and fences, those changed a little bit. So currently right now, we allow fences to be built on the property line if your neighbor signs off on it. And if they don't, you have to be 6 inches in from the property line. What we have now is that it just be entirely within a lot. So you can't put it on the property line anymore. You just have to put it within your own lot. No setback requirements. And then we also spelled out a little bit easier to understand what kind of fences we're okay with and what kind of fences are prohibited. We had it in there, it just wasn't very clear. So we did that.
Michelle,
Yes.
that section F under swimming pools,
Yes.
that was a difficult read for me because it says fenced enclosures described in parts B and C below, but that's not hit again until like 5.23. So I just wonder, for clarity purposes, can that be looked at or clarified, or
Part of
it
that.
seems redundant, but yeah, you gotta go all the way down to 5.23.
Part of it, so swimming pools are also regulated by the building code and the fencing required for them. But I will add a note to. Go away thing. Oh, did I make no?
It just had it in one area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it basically
it
says the same thing as
Yeah.
5.23, and then just from a clarity standpoint, when you cite something below and then it's several sections below, you tend to lose it, so maybe it's redundant, I'm not, but something,
What section did it, 5.23?
no,
5.
it starts in,
5.16,
correct.
walls and fences, and then it goes to F.
Yeah,
And then it says, as described in parts B and C below, but you don't really find B and C below until you get all the way down to 5.23, which talks about swimming pools.
Yeah,
okay.
And
My
then-
guess is it was pulled and not
Okay.
updated.
All right.
that's a good catch.
Yes, thank you. That is a good catch. So dwelling units, like I said, the one that was sent to you guys was not the final version. You probably 3 years ago adopted redid this section of our ordinance for dwelling units and what you wanted to see out of a dwelling unit, and that's where you required like they had to be at least 25 feet wide, 24 feet wide, and they had to be the length side had to face the roads side. And so it's all getting added back in. So I'll send you that section once we have it back in, but it's all going back to what was adopted 3 years ago by the Planning Commission. Tim, do you remember that?
No.
It's when we had the issue, it was basically written to ensure that manufactured homes were newer homes.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that when they were put in, that they had to be turned so that the length of the turn of the home was along the street
Okay,
front.
thank you, I get it now.
Yeah.
I remember.
Real quick,
Yes.
right up above you, number 6 of 17. No, it's down, sorry. There. I have a brick house. Does my she shed need to be made of brick?
No, because that's not an addition to your dwelling unit. That would be an accessory use.
Okay. I'm actually not gonna have a she shed. It just makes a good example.
She loves them.
There better be a ribbon cutting for this.
Performance standards didn't change. Principal uses and structures didn't change. Places of assembly is new. Ish. So what happened, or what has happened, is we have had where we allow religious organizations, but then we don't necessarily allow places for public assembly. Or we allow public assembly and we don't allow religious organizations, and there's federal law that has some protection for religious organizations, and the way to handle it is you just treat them all as public assembly places and make regulations and rules for public assembly places, and that's what they fall under. So that's what this is. That's why it's new. And so it's just standards for if a public assembly is allowed in a certain district, these are the standards it has to meet.
Does Ferris State or public state institutions fall under that umbrella then?
No, zoning, Ferris is exempt from zoning under state law.
Universities?
Yeah.
And what about State Street right there in the intersection, Chipotle? What about that area?
So anything Ferris owns is regulated under state, and zoning doesn't apply to their properties.
There's just a lot of assembly that happens right there on State Street, not on the lots. Would that be permitted?
That is all under, you mean like where they're protesting and stuff?
Yeah, just from all the way down Chipotle to the pharmacy. I see.
Yeah, so
it's
all of
state
that's,
versus city. And,
that's all public right of way.
yeah.
And so zoning doesn't typically regulate what happens in public right of way. It typically says you can't do any building in public right of way, but as far as like gathering and things like that, that's all permitted through Public Works. If they require a permit or if they don't. Sometimes they do if you're cutting into it and making permanent. I don't think they do for those kind of things. This is talking about buildings for public assembly for the most part. Or like a business, that's like the outdoor activities. So that'd be like a business that has like public assembly space outside. That's what that's getting at, not so much like a wedding venue that has tents outside for those, that's what that's getting at. Something that is new is minor home occupation. So right now we only have home occupations. We've split them up to be Minor and major, if they're minor, they don't have to come before the board. If they're major, then they would in most of our residential districts. So these are just the standards for minor home occupations. If you do have to get a zoning permit, but it's an administrative process. And then these are the rules you have to follow. If you don't meet this criteria, then you would be considered a major home occupation and you have to go before a board for a public hearing. Most of it's like you're running an office type business out of your house or things like that. You're not creating traffic, you're not, you don't have a lot of signage, you're not changing the character of the dwelling, those kind of stuff. You're not creating a nuisance.
What bothers me is the permitted one wall sign. 2 square foot in area. That bothers me, that could be in a residential district. I'm just saying, I don't like that, but it's just me. If it's a minor.
If you don't need traffic, then why do you need a sign up, right?
Well, if it's minor, why do you need a sign? If you're in your
I
office.
don't disagree.
So I just, as much as we've had issues with home occupation, it just seems like it's just one more opportunity to have a fight.
It does seem like it's not necessary for a minor. If you need to advertise, you're in major.
Well, I don't know. It's under minor.
Yep.
I think all persons have the right to advertise, and if they start out minor, maybe they end up major. But if we can grant them the opportunity for that, I think that's good. I personally think the size limitations on there might not be suitable, as in some residential areas, 2 foot, 2 foot might not be able to be seen from the prospective clients, versus other residential areas it might be over cumbersome.
But if a minor occupation should not bring traffic or parking,
Yeah.
no one should see the sign.
How would you feel
Well,
about
it doesn't say you can't have traffic. Here's what it says.
Stimulate the economy.
So minor home occupation shall be observed from the exterior of the dwelling by way of signage. Traffic volumes, deliveries, trash production, or outdoor storage of any kind. So it doesn't say that you can't, and then it says like sales are incidental to the minor home occupation and should not include any wholesale, and that incidental sales would be by appointment only.
No evidence of minor home occupation shall be observed from the exterior of the dwelling by way of signage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm
But you're
indifferent.
permitted one sign. I don't get that.
So I had an issue with
Huh?
like postage
so.
being an issue, like where I had to go to the post office and be like, hey, like if mail comes here for this name or for this business name, it is legitimate. Like, please stop saying it's undeliverable. And we had that issue once. I don't have a business out of my home, but I considered one years ago, and that was kind of a weird issue I had to deal with. I mean, maybe just so, like, if you get a lot of Amazon or a lot of, mine was like trading cards, right? So they came in the mail a lot. And there was a name that they came to that wasn't anybody at the house, and we wasn't getting our mail, and there was a whole issue. I mean, maybe it's minor. Maybe that wouldn't come up. But in that instance, it was nice to, like, if we would have had a sign out to where they're like, oh, this is also this kind of, but in a residential neighborhood.
As tech workers, where we run our own and we work 1099, we purchase an old building that used to be a former business. We still get their clients to our door. We have this situation where we do have undeliverables sometimes. We do not generate any traffic, nor do we make any sales. It's all, contract consulting work. But at the same point, if we would desire and maybe increase our foot traffic and our revenue, it would be helpful to be able to have that opportunity. So But I'm not sure if that would encompass us at that type of work anyway, so.
Either way, it's contradictory too. And
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
mow it
put that
over.
it's contradicting.
Mow it over either way.
And then I guess,
Just scratch it off.
Racy.
Make it easy.
and then I guess I just need, like, are you okay with a 1x2 sign on the wall or no?
I like it.
Oh god, lots of mixed reviews.
I like it, but I think it should be able to be afforded to be a little bit bigger if required with a variance.
I mean, it makes me
Those
wonder,
are the
like,
kinds of things though that people don't like when they don't want residential businesses in their area, right? It's because of those things, signs, traffic.
what if I have the sign though, but I don't have the business anymore? Or like, what if I painted the sign on the side of my garage and I don't actually run the business? Is that?
That's a legal sign.
Well, it's not a sign, it's just words, right? What if it just says, Sam's Shop on the side of my garage? But I used to own a company that says Sam's Shop.
I
I
have
don't
way
know.
more important things to deal with. Like,
Yeah, no, I get it,
You
I
wanna know
just-
the reality of that? It's like
Limiting
way
a
down
sign
on my list of.
that I can put on my house seems
I'm
kind of.
convincing myself further that
Is it a
there's a
First
difference
Amendment
between
thing or
minor
no?
and major. And it's to restrict the feel of a
Content
business
is First
operating
Amendment.
next door than take
But
the
if they
sign
don't allow a
off the wall.
sign, then there's,
I think if
you know what I mean?
The definition of a sign, that's what we need. What
believe
makes it
me.
a sign versus not a sign?
But believe me, I got a whole section on
Yeah.
signs for you.
No, it's interesting. I don't know.
Well, every resident, in my eyes, is the right to pursue their happiness, and if that means starting their own business and having the opportunity to generate income, foot traffic, and that might be an inconvenience to me seeing their sign, the better.
Isn't there a mural in town on a
But
fence?
every resident also,
That has
especially
words?
in certain districts, has the right to buy a house in a maintained neighborhood that doesn't have business signs on their neighbors' houses.
And that's why we all get along. Makes America great, where we all can do what we want.
Does this,
But we
But
will.
I-
put it
Okay,
in front
we're
of our
moving on.
house.
You guys are
Big
undecided.
red
I'll let my
roofing.
committee decide. We're moving on. Unclassified uses, this is new. It really just gives me direction on how to deal with uses that are not classified specifically in our ordinance. Swimming pools, most of that, is regulated by state building code. The only thing that is not is the location of how far it has to be from property lines and things like that, which is further than what our accessory structure setbacks are. Just so you know. But
In the wrong spot for 15.
There's no size for permits for, like, the requirement for a pool, like
it depends on the depth. It's
the depth. So anything
swimming
over the
pools
two.
are all by depth because the requirement for a building permit is by depth because of the fencing and the safety cautions of locked gates and things like that all have to do with the depth to try to
Yep.
prevent accidental drowning. That's the basis for swimming pool codes.
I like that.
Temporary buildings, structures, and uses is all new. We just don't have a lot of direction right now in our ordinance on how to deal with temporary buildings. Especially the new use of shipping containers as a temporary storage structure. And so this was just added to try to help with code enforcement and how to do some of that. Garage sales, we didn't have any language on. So if you wanted to run your garage sale every day for the entire summer, you could do that.
Has Christmas trees been an issue in the city?
No.
Okay.
No.
I did not understand that difference, why it was.
Going from garage sales being wide open to free-for-all to pretty restricted, seems maybe we could add a little bit more days of functionality in there for those that were used to the previous schedule. To not exceed 4 days within a 6-month period or more than 4 garage sale events within a 12-month period.
I can look at what some other communities do if everyone's interested in expanding it.
I believe there's even rules for it. But, you know.
I think in
I
other
agree with-
communities I've been in, they've allowed like,
Yeah, it says UPS.
I
drop
can't
here.
remember. It's
Do
been
you allow,
like,
do you have a permit now that's needed? A lot of communities, they have to have a permit. I mean, I don't know what the rules are, but at least there's a permit, somebody knows. Here, it's just wide open.
yeah,
that
it is
correct?
it is pretty wide open. We don't really have a lot of issues with it.
Okay,
The reality, I mean, I think
Okay.
we've had a couple in the past that have been issues. But
Aren't you
we,
being classified as a business at that point? Right.
yeah, one of them I know, that was there was one that was in the garage that we moved that direction in.
That's
But-
what I would like to see in this, maybe a little bit more, you know, you could have as many as you want possibly, but no more than X amount of days, and then X amount of days between each event, not to exceed more than.
So
Three
part
per
of the
month
problem
or-
when you get to that kind
Yeah.
of specificness is we don't have the manpower to enforce.
Yeah.
Like we can't drive around counting garage sales and how, when they take it down and when they put it up and how, like, there's 4 of us.
I mean, if you just had a permit that had all that information on it,
Maybe a permit for the season.
I don't know. You know, it's an enforcement, you brought it up,
Goes along
Yeah.
with the-
so, well, I guess what's easiest for the city to manage and.
I mean, you'd have
I
to manage
liked
the
it.
4 days thing anyway, you know, so.
I had a
So
neighbor
a lot
growing
of
up
things
that's
that we
putting
put
yard
in
sale sign
zoning
together with
ordinance, we have
Trash
it in
all
the
over the yard.
ordinance,
It's a yard sale.
not to stop people from
I see.
doing things, but that if we have complaints or people are taking
Yeah.
advantage of
Yeah,
things,
okay.
that we have a way to enforce
Sure.
a reasonableness. So we're not gonna, like, we don't operate under like, I'm gonna drive around and see how many days your garage sale's driving, like, no, I'm not doing that. But if we got a complaint from a neighbor that's like, dude, this guy's garage sale's been going on for 3 weeks and he does this like every other month, then we have some teeth to be like, these are your limitations. You need to, you know, and I'm okay with expanding them. I don't have a problem with that. But we don't do, some zoning regulations are written merely for if you're going to try to regulate complaints and have some teeth to bring it into a reasonableness more than we're gonna walk around looking for issues.
So it's more of an aesthetic concern, so maybe the appropriate wording here would be towards those lines, that a garage sale must be following these standards and so forth, to prevent persons from just having a stack of items in their yard and calling it a
Well, I
garage
would just
sale.
call that blight.
Well, yeah, that happened in the city I lived in previously. Where
You're
Our
just
neighbor-
stacking stuff I'm
our
calling.
neighbor got around blight because of, it's a
Yeah.
yard sale, and
Yeah.
they played that game for a couple months before they ended up whatever happened. But
To
So
force
I
a
like
permit
seeing
on
that there were
someone,
rules.
I don't believe forcing permits or fees unless it was a free permit or something
yeah, I
like
think
that.
the permit's hard to get behind because, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
it's your right. You never know when you're gonna have a yard sale. It just kind of just
When
happens.
you probably don't even know. You're gonna have a
You
yard
get
sale.
kicked out of your housing. You change life events. Life happens.
Okay, I got notes.
Okay. Perfect.
The rest of the temporary stuff, temporary real estate offices, we don't deal with those very often. But like Sandy Acres I don't think they're having one. No, they are. They're having a sales trailer. So those kind of things, do come into play once in a while. Roadside stands, we don't have
Weird
any.
amount of those in Big Rapids.
Huh?
We have a weird amount of those in the city, I think.
I think we do too. We don't have any rules on them.
Is there food laws though? Because they're selling food.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's health department.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
There's some exemptions in the health code about like what kind of stuff you're selling and if it's gotta be food laws or not. The one I didn't know if we needed was emergency housing. In my opinion, you don't need that. So what it says is if you have a dwelling that's destroyed by fire, you could bring in a mobile home that doesn't meet the requirements of our dwelling units, and it can be there for up to 6 months, and then if you're gonna extend it, we could extend it by the planning commission. So those codes, ordinances like that are very popular in townships and counties because you have you have a lot more land. The reality is in our community, if someone's gonna put an emergency house on a property, they probably aren't gonna have room to then build the house on the property. So I don't know if we necessarily need it. It's really written.
I do like it only coming from the insurance world. Like I pay for that in my insurance, so it's nice to see that like if it happened that the city wouldn't be upset by it. Like part like a loss of use coverage of me getting something to put on my property. But yeah, I mean if the lots are too small to have both, I never really thought of that.
Yeah. If you're rebuilding a house on the same property in our city, there's a very small amount of lots that you could fit both.
You don't want them to become permanent. They're temporary.
Everyone I ever did in the county became permanent,
Did it really?
Yeah.
just so you know.
Like I said, I liked it just because I saw it. Like I was like, oh, I never really thought that would be an issue. I thought the city would kind of just be okay with it, but I mean, how many lots would
Right. If you're
be
gonna.
able to do both? I don't know about that, but
So my recommendation was to remove that.
and you're not saying it's not allowed. If there is room on the lot and they did it, would it be?
It would just be a house permit. I mean, the other thing is you move these houses in, you have to pay for the house, you have to pay for the hookup, you have to pay for the foundation. I mean, it still has to meet code.
Right.
Like, there's no building code exemption for emergency housing. So it's really structured towards large lots that like their farmhouse or their large.
Or are we only talking? I'm sorry, I read mobile home and was thinking like RVs and stuff too.
No.
You're thinking manufactured or public code.
Yeah, it's gotta
I
meet.
was thinking RVs as well.
'Cause
Yeah,
I was
no,
like,
it
I
has
can
to
park
meet
an RV and
building
live out
code.
of it? Like with that while they're building.
No, we don't allow that.
And I don't know that you would, I was kind of thinking through that. I don't know that you would park it right in your city. I don't know, would you? I don't know.
Have you tried to build
I
a
have
house
family,
lately?
I'd park it at my family's
haven't,
house and
but-
rebuild my lot, but if you didn't have family, would you park it on your city lot, or would you go to a,
Go
You
somewhere else.
probably
Yeah, I
go
don't know.
somewhere
I
where
don't
you have
know.
shower and.
like, I can see where that could be your only option, and you do that for a few months.
Yeah,
and you
that's
rebuild.
not what this is.
Yeah.
This
and
is
that's
like-
not where you would do it, so I don't think that it's,
I don't see the harm in leaving it in.
That's kind of where I was. I didn't see a harm in having it, but if you think it could be a bigger issue,
I
I
don't-
see that.
I
too.
just don't think anyone will use it.
I think in the event that someone does and there's concerns or questions about it, then this helps clarify in a time of need or distress, then where,
We can leave it, that's
I mean,
fine.
if it leaves it, what's the harm?
Temporary,
Much less than a 2-foot sign.
Kate is not gonna let that one go.
We discussed, but not the things I thought we were.
All right, moving on,
Yes.
small scale solar energy systems. This is also new to our ordinance. We do not have language in our ordinance about small scale energy. We treat it, currently we treat it as an accessory use when someone wants to do it. So this system is only talking about systems that won't exceed 50 megawatts, which is pretty small. So this is like what you would put up on your roof, or if you wanna put a couple arrays in your backyard, that's what this section is applying, is regulating. It is not, we don't have property that would do solar farms, so we're not regulating that. This is
50
for
megawatts
small
is a lot of
scale,
power, isn't it?
huh?
50 megawatts is a lot of power, isn't it? Isn't
Not
it? Is
in
that a
solar.
small? I just don't know that, I can't. Okay.
So that's what this is. Basically, it's saying, if you want it, you have to get the proper building permits, you have to get a proper zoning permit, you have to, if it's, roof mounted, that's pretty easy, it's on your roof, the building code has rules for that. If it is ground mounted, you still need a building permit, there are electric rules, things like that, they have to be anchored or built off the ground and in the ground a certain way, but then we also put in some other language, about, we need a survey, we need elevation drawings showing the height and foundation material, where they can't be in the front yard unless there's no way to do it in the backyard. So there's limitations on where they can be located and how far from, they still have to meet setback requirements and things like that.
Michelle,
Yeah,
kindly, we are approaching 9:00.
can we just finish the general provision? There's not much more.
You got 7 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna run. So floodplain is new too. We don't have much floodplain, so that doesn't really affect people. Most of the floodplain is in the city
Saying.
park space.
We gotta go back.
What?
Because if you look, at 50 megawatts powers 10,000 to 40,000 homes.
Okay, we'll change the number.
Okay.
It seemed to me, Brad said there was a state law that ruled. I just
There is a
didn't
state
want
law.
you to think it
There's,
was a small amount of electricity. It's pretty wide, but
yeah,
there's a reason for that number, and it's
Did you
Eagle.
also add a thing about noise? About the generation of power? Just not to exceed a certain
we
noise.
have a noise ordinance that's under the city code. That's-
Maybe, is there
Is-
language in here referring to that noise?
We can add language to refer to that section. Noise is a police power and not a zoning power.
Okay.
6 minutes.
Well, you guys ask questions. Like I said, floodplain, we added that, almost every zoning ordinance has it. This is pretty standard to what every ordinance has and building code has. Most of our floodplain is park space actually in the city, so there's very few. Short-term rentals, what you have in front of you is not what you're going to see. We're actually gonna do what we did for our short-term rental. She just hadn't had it inserted yet. And wellhead protection, we determined, we looked at our wellhead maps and we determined that it's not needed. So,
So are we doing short-term rentals? Like, is that Airbnbs and?
yes, but we worked for 6 months to do a short-term rental ordinance and insert it in, and so that's what we're staying with.
Oh, so it's permittable now?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yep. And I'll save the next section for another night. But I'm just giving you warning, we gotta power through by the end of the month, or by the end of the year, because we have a grant for this and we have to finish it up. So I'm probably going to be making extra meetings so that we can power through some. So you expect like 2 meetings a month at least, maybe 3 meetings in a month.
So when you say that, that means it has to be approved by the city commission?
What's the end of the year, December?
End of December is what we asked for an extension.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't, I'm open to flexing my schedule to make those meetings if that's.
Okay.
Yep.
The other thing is you have this in front of you. This is the CIP list that was approved. There's a backside too.
Oh.
Someone asked
I did, yeah.
what
thank you.
ones were approved and not, so I got you a list.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for bearing through it.
Meeting is adjourned.
So, yeah.
I would have forgot, but he was looking at me like saying that.
Let me be done.